Revelation 3616. From the 29th and 30th of November 1945. Request for strength. Humility, grace. Do not rely too much on your own strength, but humbly pray for strength and grace from God so that you will be able to fulfill your earthly task. Recognize the adversity of the time, recognize the low state of the souls, and know that people lack strength and grace from above, otherwise they would never be in this deep state of maturity of their souls. For with God's strength the human being inevitably progresses upwards. But anyone who trusts too much in his own strength does not realize that he is completely powerless to develop spiritually, for he only uses the vitality he constantly has at his disposal for as long as he lives on earth for his earthly life. But he lacks spiritual strength if he does not request it from God, which requires the deepest humility and realization of his weakness. God comes to the aid of the weak and humble. He strengthens him and lifts him up to himself. But he who believes himself strong does not stretch out his hands in supplication, nor does he see the Father's hand stretched out to him, but he goes his way alone. He believes to reach the goal alone and without help. But the goal is not God, the goal is not light, but his path leads into darkness, because the eternal light does not illuminate him, because the light cannot shine where it is not desired. But earnest desire is only expressed through humble prayer, and only when the human being recognizes his inadequacy does he become small and humble. But when he feels great and strong he exalts himself. He does not recognize himself, he does not know about his powerless state, which is the consequence of the former rebellion against God. The state of ignorance, however, is also a spiritual low, which requires great earthly hardship in order to be remedied. For through earthly adversity the human being often learns to recognize his lack of strength. Through earthly adversity he becomes small and humble, and then he finds the path to God, to whom he humbly submits himself in prayer for help. If earthly adversity achieves this, it has been a blessing, and the human being will thank God in eternity that he has so visibly shown him his own weakness in order to prompt him to pray humbly. For only the grace flowing towards him brings about his ascent development, but this is only accessible to the one who humbly asks for it, thus opens himself up to it through prayer. For without the supply of spiritual strength a human being will never ascend, no matter how powerful he may be on earth. The soul will remain weak and incapable of developing if it does not receive help from above. However, help can only be given to the person asking for help, because otherwise he would be forced to develop upwards, which is against God's order and thus could never result in anything perfect. And before people recognize this, before they do not stretch out their hands to God, to their Father of eternity, the influx of divine strength and grace cannot touch them, and the earthly adversity cannot be alleviated either. Powerful people can be if they avail themselves of the strength from God, which is at their unlimited disposal. But they prefer to go their own way. They believe to possess strength themselves and to be able to master all obstacles of life. And this is the inheritance of the one who thought he could defeat God, who also thought himself strong enough to take away God's strength and overthrow him. And as long as the human being still carries this inheritance within himself, as long as he does not recognize that all strength must first flow to him from the eternal source of strength, he will be weak despite his awareness of strength and will not be able to force anything. And only the state of complete helplessness must bring him to his senses, so that he turns to the source of strength from eternity, asking for and expecting help from there. Only then will his path go upwards, only then will he distance himself from the one who thinks he is powerful and yet is completely subject to the will of the one who is power in himself and who alone distributes it according to his discretion. Amen.